In a world that sees you as ordinary, plain, or just average, know that at home, to the ones that call you dad, you can be seen as so much more. Even like a superhero. This is Ordinary Dad.
Hey guys, what's going on? Ordinary Dad Aaron, and welcome to one of our dad talks. I know that this is going to look a little bit different than how the video is actually going to turn out, and maybe if you've seen our previous video on how it is. The reason why we have it this way, unfortunately, is after we did our interview, one of our cameras kind of screwed up, but luckily for us, we still have a couple other cameras going, and the content is still awesome, and it's still there. So this is kind of what the start's going to look like. Just so you guys know that this is actually going to be part of a probably 2 or 3 part series, because the video itself actually ended up going about an hour long, and we want to try to keep our videos right around the 20-minute mark-ish. So that way, you know, it can be kind of condensed. You guys can watch them kind of quick. So we're going to make sure that we kind of put this one out every couple of days so you get the next part going on. It's a great talk on cystic fibrosis, and we hope you guys really enjoy it. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of Ordinary Dad. I'm Aaron, alongside here with me is Tim.
What's going on, guys?
We have our guest,
We have our very special guest, full-time pastor at Green Valley Crossing. And definitely, you are a first-time father of a daughter from Oklahoma, and we're super glad to have you on.
Glad to be here.
So one of the first things we were kind of talking about here was, obviously you came from Oklahoma. So with that, I mean, you're coming from the Midwest to the northeast corner of New England. Was there any kind of like culture shock to you? Like when you came, like what was different? like what was that like for you? Like coming from, you know?
So I'll in a facetious way, I'll say America truly doesn't run on Duncan, only New England.
It's true. And it's almost like method action.
Yeah, and it's like New England absolutely runs on Duncan, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think I changed coming in here?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
So
It's what I've noticed about New England and the rest of the country, honestly, is like Sheets and some of the other gas stations that are out there. Like, just you don't understand how good gas station food can be. Like it is.
yeah, there was a place in Oklahoma. My wife grew up around Tulsa. There's a place called Quick Trip. And if you ever get to Quick Trip, it's magic. It's like Disneyland in a gas station. It's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's pretty amazing.
Fantastic. Are you an Apple or Android man?
I'm an Apple guy. Yeah, so
I'm a little man out here.
yeah. And so I transitioned to Apple in I got the very, very first iPhone. I was actually thinking about getting one, and crazy enough, my father-in-law had one, and he goes, "I can't use this." Because he was trying to transition, but he was on BlackBerry at the time, and they didn't talk to one another then.
Not at all.
And so he was like, I can't use this for work, so I have no need for it. So I paid him for it or whatever, activated it, and it was like, no one knows. So once I got the iPhone, then I got an iPad, and they talked to one another, and then I was like, it's incredible. You mean I can get a computer that talks to these two as well? And it just
I love it.
So like circa 2007, sure. It was like, oh gee, it was on. Yeah.
So with that then, with that, do you remember what was your first smartphone? It was the iPhone, so that was it. Okay.
Well, you know what? Now that I think about it, it was before that. There was an NEC Palm Pilot phone that like you could turn and slide the whole screen up. And it was a brick, man. It was huge. And I would like put it in my pocket. My pocket's like, you know, huge. And it was, I got it because I had started in youth ministry, and I was losing dates of like kids basketball games and stuff that I needed to go to. And I was like, I need to write this stuff down. And so I had a little flip phone, and a guy in my church said, you should get a Palm Pilot. And I'm like, what if they marry? And so the Palm Pilot, and it was actually like a Windows OS, and then the phone together. So that was my first smartphone, although it didn't have internet. It was just basic, just
so oversized calendar.
Yeah. So good. Yeah.
I love it. So obviously we know, so in college you played golf, right?
Did.
So this one's kind of hopefully a fun question for you. If you could golf with anybody, golfer now, a golfer from the past, you know, someone that's passed away, who would be your golf partner if you could go out for your just, I can meet this person and I can play in my round of golf?
And if it's too tough, make a foursome.
No, I've thought about that in the past, and you know, even though my generation was all the Tiger, and normally people would be like Tiger, knowing what I know about golf, I would want to play with Arnie.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Arnie was a man who he had integrity on the course, off the course, in his business dealings. He was known in his little small town in Pennsylvania as just like, and he was a guy that, as famous as he got, he never left his roots. And I was like, wow, that's
My buddy actually just played down at his home course this past weekend. He was showing the picture, and it was gorgeous.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the beverage. So.
Oh yeah. You know how that started?
It was literally drinking it, right? That was his go-to.
Yeah, well, it was a thing where he was actually building a golf course, helping build a golf course, and came in for lunch.
Yeah.
And the guy on the next table, got the waitress to do it. And he's like, hey, what if I tried that? And he kind of heard about it and goes, I'll have that.
Yeah.
So, he had it, and then every day after that, he kept having this.
Oh,
this
that's
drink.
awesome.
And so it got nicknamed.
So Arnold Palmer, which actually came from somebody else. But,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. It was kind of fun.
Awesome. Yeah. So what else was college like for you? Kind of describe that time. Is that where you?
Yeah,
What's
yeah. So I met my wife. I'll get into that in a second. I did a junior college, played golf in junior college. Always knew I wanted to go to seminary. I had served in ministry when I was 15, 16 years old. That's just what I want to do with my life. Ended up at a little university in my hometown. That was a small liberal arts college. And so that was kind of preparation for New England. I didn't know at the time. Kind of a more prevailing liberal attitude in the culture at the university. And then dealing with different things that were attacking my faith outright in the classroom. So I was like, wow, that's a really interesting thing. Met my wife actually through Facebook.
Nice.
Oh.
Social media, baby.
So, Hurricane Katrina had happened in 2005, 2006. My dad had gotten involved with the disaster relief organization and led her church from a different part of the state to New Orleans to do disaster relief stuff. And it was after that, through some crazy connections on Facebook, mutual friends, and she sent me a message, and it was innocent. She was like, hey, tell your dad I said thank you for leading our trip. It was a memorable trip. It was a great trip. I really enjoyed it. And I'm kind of like, okay. So I just reply to this girl and I click on her profile and I'm kind of like, she's kind of cute, So
that's so good.
I just kind of started this little conversation, and unbeknownst to me, she's also kind of started a little conversation, and I ended up calling a buddy of mine. I was in Stillwater, Oklahoma State University, saying, "Come to crash on the couch and meet this girl," and he was like, "All right, cool." So we met, and 2 years later, we were married.
Dude, so it goes from literally starting off as the middleman to
That's awesome. There's a magic.
And so how long have you guys been married now?
13 years this June.
That's
So
awesome.
Coming up on 13 years.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah, it's been
great.
fun. It's been fun.
Awesome.
When we hit a decade, I was like, we might make it.
That's a big milestone.
It's
a big milestone.
It really is wild thinking about friends that I know who their longevity of their marriage. It's just crazy. It's just wild, man.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Married that long.
Yeah.
You guys are still, 11 years?
Yeah,
10 years,
because we got married in 2010, so actually June for us too is 11 years. But when I tell people we've been together for 17 years, they're like, "Whoa!" That's you do the quick math, and you're like, "That's like high school coming through." And it's a rarity, which you kind of see, but it's cool. I'm glad that's what it is. It's
15 years together, 13 years married.
That's
We got
awesome.
married in 2008, so it was actually June 7th, 2008, so 07,
Oh, that's cool.
07.
Okay.
That's how I remember.
I'm glad that we got married in
If I start
2010 because it makes the
I know.
math so much easier.
Yeah,
you know,
that's-
that nice even
Yeah,
just keep it. Oh, yeah.
That's good. Sweet. So you guys, you started dating, you got married in 2 years. What was your talk like about family, like starting a family? What is that?
Yeah,
that conversation look like?
It's really kind of funny because we wanted to be married for a period of time before we had kids, and so we kind of gave ourselves a 5-year mark. So like we want to be married for 4 or 5 years before we do that. 5 years starts rolling around, and God lays a call on us to come to New England and plant a church. And we're like, probably not the best time to have a kid right now because everything's up in the air with funding. Are we going to survive? Are we going to move to New England and like 6 months later come back to Oklahoma because like church planting didn't work? You know, I'd never planted a church before. I'd never done anything like that, and so it was just like let's take off and do this thing. And so the 5 years turned into 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, and so we kept doing the thing, and so it was we got the church here to the point that it was self-sustaining, and that's when we started the conversation about. And it was a thing where we weren't necessarily trying, but we weren't not trying. Sure, if that makes sense. Absolutely. We were just kind of at a place where we're going, God, you are sovereign over these processes. We're going to trust you, and it's good.
Yeah. So how did you guys find out? Like, did Cassie kind of surprise you?
Yeah, we were both very surprised. Basically, there was a family in our church at the time, a set of 3 siblings that were in the foster care system that were like placed for adoption. And so we had started conversations at our home about like these kids and different things like that, how we could pray for them, encourage them. One of our other elders had started the process of adopting the youngest one, and they wanted to keep the older 2 together, but the younger one needed to be close differently. You know, it's crazy stuff in this world. But, so I had met that day with the social worker in my office saying, if there's any families in this church that want to adopt, like, we need to get them. And I was like, we might need to have conversations at our house about like what it would look like to do this. And I told Cassie about the meeting, and she was thinking, we need to have a conversation about this. And there was just something in her that said, you need to take a pregnancy test. And no joke, I'm coming home thinking we're about to have this conversation, but we ended up having that conversation. And I'm like, what?
What was that like for you? Like, wait, so you guys find that out now, and now you're like,
no, it was so surprising that I was kind of like, whoa, this is happening. Like, it was exciting. But I basically called it. I had like 2 weeks of, oh crap, I'm going to be a dad. And it's, I think every first time dad has that. They go through that, like, what does this mean? And so my personality is, I get all the information that I can. I just start reading, I start studying, I start listening. So like, I'm like, what podcasts do I need to listen to? What books do I need to read? Everything. I just started getting as much information that I could about helping her through pregnancy, being a first-time dad. Like,
and what's funny about that is as much as you read, right? Like, there's so much material that's out there. People, every situation's so different, and then you start going through it, and you're like, well, the book said this, but I'm finding this is actually better. And you're learning as you go along too, because there's as much as there's a book for it, there's really not a book for it. Like, it's your own experiences where you're going.
There was one book that was helpful because it was like, this is what's going on with your baby's development. This is probably what you're observing in your wife. And obviously it's off by two. But it was really pretty good because I was able to be like, hey, are you dealing with this? And she goes, yeah, I started 2 days ago. I'm like,
how did you know that?
So it was really helpful. It was really helpful because I was able to serve her because I had the information at my disposal. That's very cool.
I would say it's similar to marriage. It's like you can't explain it to someone until like it happens. Like you just can't. Like so you laugh at the little people without their kids yet. Like
Yeah,
But it's good too at the same time.
Yeah.
So now she's pregnant. Things are going along, and then at one point you had a sit down with the doctor and something was going on there.
Yeah. So my daughter has cystic fibrosis, and how that whole thing.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that part of the video. We hope you guys stay tuned for the next part. Make sure you like, subscribe, share with your friends. Have more than ordinary day.